Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's Simon here from Getting to Crypto, and I'm going to bring you an update on Bitcoin because quite a lot has happened since we last looked at the charts. So let's jump straight into Bitcoin and take a look at what is going on, because we've seen the breakout that we were talking about. So that came from this descending channel here, which we sort of labeled a bull flag, and we were looking for a breakout of around about sort of 27,000 last time we spoke. And obviously we got this last week on the Wednesday, and then we continued actually on the Tuesday, then we continued to sort of push on, confirming the breakout. We saw some nice volume coming in, and we are actually now consolidating right below our yearly highs. Obviously we printed new yearly highs at the end of last week, and since then we've been consolidating. So Bitcoin is looking fairly strong. I sort of said that we could see a sort of push down to this 24,000 level and this ascending trend line. It looks like that actually got front run, and obviously this all came off the back of the BlackRock news, which was very big news for the space. I think the introduction of BlackRock into crypto and the launch of a ETF product is absolutely massive. It's not only going to make it a lot easier for institutions to buy into Bitcoin without having to worry about custody. Obviously, they can do it through retirement accounts. Here in the UK, I'm not in the UK right now, but being from the UK, we have things like ISAs, we have self-invested pension plans, which at the moment we're sort of limited to buying shares and miners such as MicroStrategy, Riot Blockchain, etc. So to actually have a listed ETF from BlackRock will make it a lot easier for many investors to buy. And the other thing which is really positive is that obviously if you've got a financial advisor right now, they're going to be incentivized to actually sell BlackRock's products. So what we saw with the launch of the gold ETF is that a lot of advisors were then able to advise their clients to start making an allocation into gold. We never really had that. You should allocate some of your portfolio into gold until the ETF came along. So it could be that the same thing happens with Bitcoin. If it does, this could bring trillions of more capital into the crypto space, with Bitcoin being at the forefront of that and the main benefactor of that initially. And this might sound like moon boy talk or all sort of getting carried away and starting to dream a bit too far, but this is the reality of that news dropping. This is really the reality of what a spot ETF will mean if it gets launched and if it gets approved, which at the moment I think BlackRock's record of ETFs is something like 357 to 1 or something like that. And apparently the one that didn't get approved is because they weren't going to provide sort of daily updates, like data and sort of pricing on the ETF. So that's why it didn't get passed. So look, I think BlackRock wouldn't get involved if and wouldn't waste their time and their money if they didn't think that there was a very good chance of approval. And obviously it feels like the floodgates have opened. We've now had Fidelity coming out and many other institutions saying that they're going to launch similar products, and an exchange as well, which is going to be regulated from some of the big institutions. So yeah, it really feels like this is Bitcoin's moment. And obviously price is kind of reacting how we would expect it to react, which is good. And obviously all of this has come off the back of the SEC and Gensler looking to sort of clamp down just the week earlier. So yeah, it's good to see that price is responding. If we actually just go over to the weekly charts, we will see that we closed really strong last week, which is great to see. So Bitcoin has actually closed its I think it's its highest closing price of the year, but the close on where we were was 30,480. Prior to that we're looking at 30,326. This is on Coinbase, bear in mind. But yeah, that's a really strong close. And look, I mean, being above this 30k level now, I would expect to see some continuation here on Bitcoin, probably up to our next target of around about sort of 36,000, and then likely higher from there. I was actually having a look earlier on. We can actually see that Bitcoin has sort of based off its 20-week moving average, also its 200-week moving average. It's above both of those key moving averages. The only one it's not currently above is this blue one, which is the 100-week moving average. But we can see that Bitcoin is set up in a really nice position, and you know, a push higher from here to the mid-30s is going to look really nice. We're going to have Bitcoin above all of its longer-term moving averages on the weekly. Things all starting to point up. Maybe it might take the blue a little bit of time to turn around, but yeah, from there we could definitely push on a bit higher. And what we might see now is that Bitcoin could now fall into this range. So if we kind of take the sort of highs of last year and just look at the lows of last year, you've kind of got a range here from around about 30,000 to about 65,000. And if we actually look at the midpoint of that, which is coming in just under 48k, so it's around about this sort of 47, 48k, maybe that is a area that we actually look to come up to. So it could be that we, over the next couple of months, push into that sort of 48k area and then come back down, and then sort of we want to see 30k hold as support. Let's be honest, like Bitcoin can correct. It can correct substantially, and we're going to have this 200-week moving average, which will be coming up probably later on in the year or early next year to kind of coincide with around about that 30k level. So do we make one last pull down, shake everybody out before the halving, and then sort of look to sort of push on upwards from there over the course of next year? That's one potential scenario that I'm considering, but I certainly think in the interim, there is a bit more upside to come. Whether we get up here remains to be seen, but we do have something that I was looking at, which is adding some support to that. This is actually the Gaussian channel. So we can actually see that on the weekly Gaussian channel, Bitcoin has now closed above. Just kind of going back and looking at the Gaussian channel, like historically, if we kind of go back to, I want to look at our previous bull markets, shall we say, and let's see if I can get the Gaussian channel. No, we don't have data to go back to 2016, but I've really been looking at the sort of previous bull market. So just looking at where we were back in 2019. So obviously this is 4 years ago. So looking at the 4-year cycle, we would expect 2019 to actually have some relevance. And we can actually see we came above the weekly Gaussian channel. We sort of pulled back, retested, and then we shot on higher. And if we actually look at when we got above the Gaussian channel, what the actual measured move was, if we just do it from the kind of like the breakout, we can see we pushed on a further 75%. I'm absolutely not saying that that has to happen again. And certainly if we did push on that high, I think there's a risk whenever you go up too fast that you're going to get a very sharp correction. Obviously, that is ultimately what we saw last cycle back in sort of 2009. We pulled down quite sharply in 2020, right before the halving. And obviously, a lot of that was based on the pandemic news as well. But if we did do something similar, 75%, you can see that we're actually pushing into the 50Ks, shallow 50Ks. So that would be quite a big move if we actually did see that. Looking at the 5-day, which a couple of people have alerted me to, if we actually go back to a similar time, we actually see we pushed above. I guess you could say we kind of retested quite early on, but looking at the move, we actually got sort of above the 5-day Gaussian channel. It's an even greater move. It's 110% that we saw Bitcoin push on above that back then. And if we just look at where that would take us from obviously the lower price of around about 25k, again, you can see that we're getting on, I mean, 100%, we're going up to the sort of 50s up here. Let's pull that a bit further up so we can actually sort of see where we are. But you can see we are actually forecasting sort of a lot higher prices, but up to around the shallow 50Ks again. So look, I'm not saying we're going to get there, but I'm just saying this is obviously going to sort of give us an added boost to actually see how we've reacted in the past with this Gaussian channel. And both on the weekly and the 5-day, you can see there are cases there supporting the argument that, look, now we have consolidated, retested, closed above these Gaussian channels, then look, we could easily see much higher prices off the back of this if we repeat some of the price action that we've seen in the past. So that's what I really wanted to cover on Bitcoin. I also just wanted to quickly share my Twitter from obviously last week. So I just want to say I can't make videos every day. I was actually back in the UK last week and was pretty tied up with some family commitments. So it was fairly difficult for me to get on and make a video as much as I wanted to. But if we actually just come down here and look at some of my tweets, we can actually see here that this is back on the 15th of July. So nearly call it 12 days ago now, nearly 2 weeks ago. But this is when the BlackRock news came out, and I just said, look, this is the most bullish I've felt in a while. Everything over the past week smacks of a crypto shakeout. So obviously that was in response to the SEC and Gary Gensler lawsuits against Binance and Coinbase. What some of the world's biggest banks and asset managers fill their bags. Best believe that the bull run is coming. So they were obviously my comments 12 days ago, and then obviously we since saw some sort of pushing up here. So I actually called out the breakout on Bitcoin of our bull flag, and I mentioned that I'd expect to retest the 31k and likely higher over the next 1 to 2 months. And obviously we saw that 31k came very, very quickly. What we've done here, didn't want to do that. Yeah, that's what we've already talked about. And yeah, and then obviously we saw 31k tagged fairly quickly. So yeah, I would say my Twitter is a great place to get sort of real-time updates from me in terms of my thoughts from the market. So please do go over there if you have Twitter and follow me so you don't miss out on any up-to-date info or breaking thoughts or comments. And yeah, that's really Bitcoin. We'll just take a very quick look at the dollar as well. So let me turn this back off so we can see that the dollar is starting to come under some pressure. If we just revert to the weekly, obviously the 5-day and the weekly are the same on the things like the DXY because they don't trade at the weekend. But we can see that it looks like the dollar is likely, in my opinion, to come down a little bit lower here and probably test this 100 MA around about the 101.6, 101.7. Let's see if the dollar can find some support there. But obviously, if it does come down and starts to test these lows or even break these lows around about 100, that's going to be a big tailwind for the stock market and also crypto markets. Obviously, risk assets denominated in the dollar are going to perform well when the dollar is showing weakness. And let's just have a quick look at the NASDAQ. So we can actually see on the NASDAQ, we've actually sort of retraced a bit. So I was looking at this channel. Obviously, this was our sort of breakout level. We've come back down. We've looked to make a retest already early this week and yesterday. and it looks like now we're starting to push up. Probably easier to see this on the daily, but it looks like the Nasdaq is poised to have another go at its 2023 highs. And I believe similar case for the S&P as well. We can see that S&P broke out of its resistance. It's come back down. It's looked to find some support, and it feels like the S&P is going to have another go at its yearly highs too. So I'll probably wrap it up there. Just very quickly on the altcoins, we can see that Ethereum is lagging slightly. It has actually broken out itself from a similar descending channel. So if we actually put the sort of descending channel line on here, we can actually see that Ethereum, I've lost that. We can actually see that Ethereum has now broken out. However, it's not yet challenging its yearly highs. So it seems to be lagging Bitcoin a bit. And to be honest, all of the altcoins are lagging Bitcoin a bit right now. And that is largely in part to Bitcoin dominance being on a bit of a tear. We can see here that Bitcoin dominance has broken out of this resistance here at around about sort of 48%, 48.5%, and it is pushing on higher. And it looks like the next key level of resistance will be probably these lows here. You've got them around about sort of 52-53%, and you've got a couple of longer term moving averages coming in there. So I would expect Bitcoin dominance to kind of push in to this level here as the next level of resistance. We can call it around about sort of 53.5, or maybe just below. So we've got that in there around about sort of 53.5. If we do break through there, let's just see if we can chart this up quickly. We can draw in a longer term trend line here. So this is going to be taking these highs, coming down and catching that high. And yeah, if we pushed up to there, we're looking around about 58%, and that would coincide with some of the highs from 2018, also the low from 2020. So that could be a very interesting level, and is probably not a bad longer term target, or not even longer term, but probably short to medium term target for Bitcoin. Certainly if we get through this 53 level, I would expect us to probably push on to around about 58. And then it remains to be seen whether Bitcoin can continue to push on up through there, or whether we start to get a bit of an alt season, Bitcoin comes back down. And then obviously I would really expect altcoins to start to perform better after the Bitcoin halving. What you tend to see is Bitcoin outperform altcoins around about this time in the cycle. So again, if we look at the 4-year cycle, if we go back to 2019, we can actually see that Bitcoin found a footing against altcoins and then really took off throughout the later stages of 2019. And then it kind of put in its high really for the rest of the cycle at towards the end of 2019, or even the end of the summer, should we say, September. So if it was to do a similar thing, then where are we? If we were going into September, we could obviously come up over the next couple of months, run into resistance in September around about the sort of 57-58% line, and then we could see something similar to what we've seen here. Bitcoin sort of come down, maybe sort of go range bound, and then obviously in the full bull season, in the sort of towards the end, when Bitcoin is above its all-time highs and all the hype comes back and the retail comes back, I would again expect to see Bitcoin probably drop back down to around the 40% mark. That would be my gut feel, and potentially even slightly lower. Yeah, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, because many things can happen. Obviously, the SEC attack on securities, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, Bitcoin dominance is looking on the up, certainly for now, and I would expect that to probably run towards the end of the summer, at which point we might then see a bit of love coming back into alts, as people, you know, really start to front run what they know, or should I say they believe is highly likely to occur in the forthcoming couple of years. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. If you have liked the content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will be back with another update very soon.